Never stop pushing Cardano. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised. We're talking about cryptocurrency. I don't see a whole lot of ADA talk in our cryptocurrency. And I think there's a lot of skeptics because of the development pace that, when did work start? 2017-ish or so on ADA, and it's kind of been in the background this whole time, which is one of the reasons I'm actually grateful that I came into ADA. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another week in r/Cardano. I hope everyone's doing all right. Everyone's safe. We just had a giant earthquake here in Japan, and nothing was really affected where I'm living, closer to Tokyo. But I did have some degrees that I keep on the shelf fall down, and bunch of other stuff. I think it was shaken for a good minute or two almost, and it started off as like a slow ramp and then kind of built. And I think it was definitely the largest earthquake that I have experienced in Japan. So just conscientious that there's other stuff going on in the world other than cryptocurrency stuff, and hope everyone is doing well and good. So yeah, we're gonna be doing a review of some of the top posts in r/Cardano. And as always, if you have any questions or other ideas, put them in the chat below. And if it's kind of on topic, we'll get to them immediately, or kind of bundle those up for the end, and we'll go through and do kind of AMA type thing. I also have some other stuff to share with the little small update on some of the what was I doing? Seed phrase stuff that I was trying to, or that I've been working on for securing your seed phrase. I've made a few new versions of that, so we'll get to that maybe at the end. So let's switch on over into it. So yeah, I've already opened the tab this time. We're just sorting by, for the past week, the top posts, and just a little bit meta. First thing I'll note is the top posts nowadays are getting quite a lot more upvotes than they used to. So you can see this, the number one post for the past week has 2,300 upvotes, upvotes. And so yeah, that's representative. I think like 2 of the 3 top posts are, um, you know, how we've been adding 10K, 10K, 10K. I think we have to stop posting 10K updates to Cardano, r/Cardano users, and start going for 100,000 or at least 25,000, or 25,000 at the minimum, because the 10,000s are just happening way too fast. So let's get into the actual content. So the tokens that will win will be the ones with the fastest transaction speed and lowest transaction fees. So this was, I think originally this was a tweet by Charles. When I saw it on Twitter, I don't know if he was doing it, retweeting this guy, but Ethereum and ADA have roughly equivalent US dollar equivalent values transferred. And of course, there's a huge difference in the amount of fees that were paid. Someone, I think, pointed out on Twitter that, was the last piece of information we need for this is the number of transactions for the 17.75. Hi, Patrick. And the number of transactions for this 14.83 for it to be a really kind of equivalent comparison. But it's hard to imagine, that there would be such a difference in distribution of size of transaction between these two networks, and that over such a large amount of transactions, probably there's roughly similar traffic types occurring, which maybe is a false assumption to make, because I suppose that Ethereum has a very different kind of character to its network, given all the swaps and DeFi tokens that are built on it that are not really representative of the normal kind of transactions that people do on a cryptocurrency, just when it comes to sending and receiving crypto, which is the only kind of transaction that you can do on ADA right now. So maybe my assumptions are false. Curious what you think about that in chat. Charles Hoskinson speculating on the price of ADA, must watch. I think this is actually an older clip from an AMA a few weeks ago. I actually watched this one live, and Charles was going on about I tend to agree with Charles. There's some stuff I don't agree with him on, but not that it matters what I think. But I like that the figurehead of the currency or the project is not a moon boy, and is not, trying to fill his bags or whatever, that he's stuck around, that he hasn't sold all his tokens like any number of other cryptocurrency leaders have, and is kind of just sticking around through it, thick and thin, right? He rode the price up to $1.38, I think was the all-time high, and all the way down to 2 cents. And he seems really disinterested in the price of ADA. And, it's fine for the rest of us on the outside to get hyped and excited about this. I really can't believe how quickly we've gone to almost $1, and I hope we're going to kind of level off here for a bit. Not financial advice, but yeah, I if anything, I'm worried about how fast we've grown. I was expecting this to occur over a few months, and it happened in like a week or two. I would have liked to have more time to DCA in and buy more ADA, but it is what it is. Yeah, this is another post. It's funny how different subreddits develop some kind of culture. I think we've talked about this post before. 1,700 upvotes. I'm disappointed in all of you. Me forever. Hi. This post, right? I think we mentioned this last time we did this subreddit. I'll take a timeout after this post and just talk with you guys for a second. But yeah, dominating / post this every 5 days. If you want to get 17, I like Ireland. All my kids have Irish names or Celtic names, because my mother is actually far back from over there. but Cardano is now 80% decentralized with an ETA of 100% decentralization on March 31st. That is in 50 days, moving right along. So if you want to get 1,000 or 2,000 karma, just post this at the epic transition with a screenshot of Daedalus, and you'll get a ton of karma. So just and tons of awards too. It looks like, yeah. So I think I actually skipped this live last week because I don't know. I think I had other stuff going on in terms of working on some of these other projects that I'm doing. So I apologize for that. But I'm curious what you guys think of the subreddit in general. I used to follow this and read this like religiously all day long. But I've kind of gotten disinterested in the subreddit actually recently because it's, I don't know, the content in it just seems less interesting to me nowadays. So I'm curious what you guys are thinking. I'm really glad that it's growing, obviously, and I'm not saying that everyone should stop reading it, but me personally, whatever it was that was interesting to me about the Reddit subreddit is kind of tapered off a bit. So thank you for joining us, me forever from Ireland. I was just saying, my kids all have Celtic inspired names or Celtic origin names because my mother is an American lady whose family is originally from the British Isles or whatever those islands are called. Hey James, I got some update for you later, James, on this stuff. I think we're about ready to ship something out finally after about a month of delays. So we got some regulars, we got some new folks in here. If you can all make me forever feel welcome, I'd appreciate that. This was actually one of the coolest posts. Actually, my wife commented on this to me. She started reading the Cardano subreddit thanks to the appreciation. But she thought this was interesting. Weekend getaway booked with Ada via Travala.com. So there are two things that were interesting to this about her, or interesting about this to her. One is that you could actually use Ada to pay for something. That's kind of new. And two, she noted, she's like, what? They only paid 1,181 ADA for this transaction, which was $1,110 US, right? Like it's like you just kind of like gotta like bite something or pinch yourself and realize that ADA is almost at $1, and that of course is going to be big. I think that, not financial advice, do your own research, blah 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 blah, but even more than $1, I'm pretty curious what happens if we get to $1.38, which is what I think the all-time high is. Hi Samuel Blizzard, nice to have you in chat. We're just going through this subreddit, but I'm curious what you think. I know Patrick's in channel. We've got a few, right, Patrick? We've got a few pool operators in here. How much do you guys think about the minimum pool fees now? Now that, you can say basically that you're getting around $340 US or 340 euros every 5 days as a pool operator if you get to that 1.5 million ADA delegation level, right? I'm trying to plan for my future and different kind of contingencies for when I might be able to work on Cardano full time. Your biggest pool. What do you mean by that, James? Right before $2. But right, like, do you think we're gonna vote on these parameters and tone them down a bit? I know the min fee is supposed to cover like surfer cost and everything like that, but like, I'm happy to collect it as a pool operator, right? But I wonder if the network it starts to bring into question this governance issue. Is like, I guess everyone has their own vote regardless of the pool, but if it was only the pools that were voting, obviously the pools would have an interest in keeping those fees high. Yeah. I don't know, Patrick. I kind of feel like I don't understand why they have a min fee, like the fixed 340 per epoch, and why they don't have just a min fee percent. Why, like, why don't they just set the minimum percent at 0.5% or 1%? Because I know it only affects small pools, right? But some of the people who delegate with me early on were paying like 20 to 30% effective fee, because of the, if we get one block in an epic, which is the most we could hope for, then I immediately have to take 340 ADA of 1,000 ADA. Yeah, exactly, Patrick. So what I'm talking about right here and the min fee, for those who aren't clear, um, every time there's a block, right? I'm just looking at my own pool right now, right? You get around 1,000 ADA, a little bit more, a little bit less, depending on your pledge value, which is not really relevant for the pledges that that almost all, or literally all, pool operators have. But there's this fixed cost of 340 ADA that comes off, that goes to your pool operator, which, up until last week was, like maybe $30 or so, but now it's actually quite significant. It's $340. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. So price is going up, stuff like that. So I'm not talking about price right here. What I'm talking about is how does price interact with some of these parameters, and how do people feel now? How do delegators feel now about this min fee, right? And stuff like that. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, Patrick. Although on that note, I don't know if it comes up in here. There are some cool changes to Daedalus that are happening in the 3.3 version. I'll probably pull that up in a second, which I would like to talk with people about. This is my dream post. This is what I want to. Quitting my job thanks to Cardano. This guy was in the military, and I think he's got enough crypto now that he is retiring, right? Or at least quitting his job. I'm wondering, you know, Cardano does have this staking feature, or for me, a pool operator rewards feature. So I don't. I'm very glad about that, because I feel like there's a kind of exit strategy where I can kind of make use of the gains that we've had, um, and not have to liquidate my bags, right? That's that. But I'm wondering what some of your plans are, like, or if you can just say in chat, um, hey Sam, you're ahead of everyone. The Sam's in channel. He's saying he's 18 years old. He's got 4,000 coins. You know, you have what some of us don't have, is you got started early, Sam. So, I only really started investing seriously maybe like 2 years ago or so, if that. And I'm 35 years old now. So, uh, if you Sam, keep it up. Don't worry that you only got 4,000 coins in ADA, but because you still have, like, a long time to appreciate and compound what you're doing. So enjoy that. Yeah, that's super cool. And you got Patrick in channel, who's a future Mr. Moneybags of ADA, Mr. Wonderful, and he's only a few years older than you are right now, so that's good. This is what I was talking about, right? 150,000 subreddit. I think there's a few more of these uh, in the top 10 or top 20 posts. What I'm just saying is we're growing so fast that announcing every 10,000 new subs to the subreddit is no longer a big deal, which is a good problem to have, right? No big deal. We grew 10,000 people. Yes. My wife's just checking in if I ordered coffee or not. We got some Uber Eats coming. My coffee machine broke. I gotta order coffee. What's next? Exactly, Sam. So I'll share with you guys something. Uh, it's a little bit embarrassing, a little bit whatever. just to give it a personal anecdote and price and make you guys feel a little bit happier. When did I start? I found out about ADA back here, and this is a daily candle, I think. So where were we? Right, this was back in. Actually, it was before this. No, yeah, it was back in June or July of last year, and we were just going from like 9 to 12 cents, and then we so this was this peak, and then we went down, and then we went back up to 15. I did a bunch of buying here in the 12 to 15 cent range, um, and then I did a bunch of trading and shorting and other stupid stuff during the slide down all the way down to 7 cents, right? Uh, and then luckily things turned around in September, and we started, going back up, and then we started to blow up. But if I had just bought and held during this time, I'd probably have like 300 or 400,000 ADA. And instead, I'm like barely scraping by 100,000 ADA. And still, I've almost like tripled or quadrupled the amount of money that I've made thanks to the stupid appreciation of ADA. But what I'm saying is at least for me, who I like to think of myself as a smart guy, and I know what I'm doing. I was a horrible trader, and I'd like to make a difference or distinction for some of the new people in chat. There's a big difference between trading and investing. And actually, I talked to one of my friends who's in finance and, very wealthy individual. And it didn't dawn on me that there's a difference between trading and investing, right? It's that I think I did a good job of investing in Cardano by spotting the trend and seeing that, it's written in Haskell. Oh, Patrick's in chat. We had a good chat over on Twitter. I might switch over to Twitter now. Talk about some of the stuff in there that Patrick wanted to fight about. But I've been a horrible trader of ADA, right? So I would just encourage Sam and some of the new investors in the chat to think long term. It's likely that we could have some kind of pullback or something here, but again, when it pulls back, you buy. When it goes up, you buy. And there's this I think you guys are probably familiar with him, Benjamin Cohen. He's got a YouTube channel over here. He's one of the more level-headed YouTube financial crypto guys. If anyone can, well, just pull him up. I think this is him. If you're looking to talk about price and stuff, I would put it. I would talk to this guy. Check out his channel. He's a very level-headed, not just Cardano. He is into Cardano, but general crypto person, and I like him. He's not like Bitcoin Boy or whatever, BitBoy, and all these other people giving level-headed stuff. So that's that. Want to thank everyone that our Cardano has remained a helpful and friendly community with the influx of members. Cheers to the noobs for asking thoughtful questions and the OGs for answering. Yeah, like I said, I personally I felt like some kind of fall off in the content, but I think that those are just growing pains. I think the Cardano community has done a pretty good job. I also like some of the new features in the Reddit that the mods have made. I'm just going to show you. I think I used one of them here. This thing. Have you guys seen this thing where you can like use this feature, right? You can hit $stake into your reply, and the auto moderator will come up with this like post about staking. I think the other one I probably should have referenced here was not actually staking, but $rewards. Like, when do I get my rewards? So I think stuff like this is making it easier for people to answer questions. Yeah, man. And Samuel, again, if you have around $4,000 at 18, I think you're very far ahead of most people I know who are building their wealth themselves. So really, really happy for you. That's super awesome. And if you keep investing in it, you'll do well. You'll probably be retired by 25. Yeah, with the way things are going. So natural growth. Yeah, this is also the other thing, right? I've gotten a few people in recently to Cardano from ex coworkers and stuff like that. But one of the things I like about Cardano is that it's not like I really have fun reading Wall Street Bets and stuff like that. But I feel like the Cardano community is a little bit different, and there's no like diamond hands, rocket, moon, or much less of that kind of behavior than there is in some of the other subreddits. So again, another 140,000, right? This was a little bit scary, a little bit freaky. This Daedalus wallet that's in the, I think, the Play Store, Google Play Store, and the iOS store. I don't know if it's on the, no, maybe on the Play Store only. This is a fake wallet. If you're not already aware, Daedalus is only available for Windows, Mac, and Linux, and Yoroi is available for Chrome as a browser extension and as a mobile app. Yeah. Yeah. You guys are having a good time in chat. That's cool. Purchased my first ever ADA coins. Hey, Samuel, you got anything to say to this guy? $15. He bought 22 ADA coins. So crazy. So crazy. James is gonna be getting one of these soon, but you know, I show this almost every time. I've printed out his now. I've actually made 2 of them. He's gonna get 2. But I was using these things at my entrance to, how do you say? Let's switch over to the camera for a second. Take a little bit of a divergent. So this is one, right? And they're just meant to be little cases to hold like your pocket change in. And what I was doing for a while is I would take all my change that I gathered out during the day and drop it in here when I got home, and at the end of the month when I made my transfer over to my crypto exchange, I would add in all the coins that I had saved up. And in Japan we have some pretty large denomination coins, like a $1 coin and a $5 coin. It would actually add up to 100 or 200 bucks a month. And it's, yeah, so the point was, for $1 I was used to getting something like, I think you can see the 100 here. For $1 I was used to getting like 8 to 10 ADA, and now that's like almost 1 ADA. So quite interesting to me to see that for 15 bucks people are getting 22. Yeah, thumbs up, share, like, tweet it out if you can. Yeah, that's on sensor autofocus. I used to be a camera into photography actually, so that's what that was. And we'll jump back into a little bit about these things. I'm going to be sending some of these out shortly. Let's see. Cardano, IOG reveals world's largest blockchain deployment in Africa. I think this is referencing the John O'Connor interview on the POA channel, right? That was pretty cool. If you're not familiar with it, there's like a head of Africa or head of Ethiopia in the IOHK company, and he was giving some pretty juicy details that they're in the very, 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 very final stages of negotiations with Ethiopia or some other African country on basically an ID deployment to be done on the Cardano blockchain. So that's pretty cool. And that there's so many things that are coming down the pipeline, right? There's this there should be a hard fork combinator in the next week or two on the mainnet, which means that we will have native assets, multi-assets coming to the Cardano blockchain in a week or two. There's, D getting to 0 at the end of March, which maybe means a Coinbase listing, which is what everyone has been talking about, right? There's this Africa stuff. There's James just mentioned in chat that how do you say? Part of the interesting thing is that Jack Dorsey is interested in Africa as well, and also interested in decentralizing Twitter, making Twitter a client of a decentralized protocol. There's so much stuff that's going in. Yo, Sam, don't give out too much personal details online, especially when you're a crypto billionaire. Some robots from the future might be Sam, stop, Sam. don't give anyone your social security number. Don't tell you might also, yeah. Can someone explain why it's not the best idea to be let me see. I'm gonna delete that message for you. I'll leave the other one, but generally speaking, you don't post your own personal details that can like personally identify you too much. Zatemis in chat, very nice. Okay, I'm gonna use that as a segue because I'm actually kind of bored of Reddit this week. I don't know if you all saw. I'll go back to Twitter for a second. It's funny. I used to really hate Twitter and like the Reddit, but these days I'm a little bit disinterested in Reddit and been more on Twitter. So I've been actually working on this stuff this week, less on my site, the monad map thing, and more on this thing, which is supposed to be a tool for securing your 24-word seed phrase, right? And I think some of you probably saw that video that I put up explaining it a little bit, but for those of you who haven't, and because we're kind of live in chat, I think it could be fun to do right now. This was the first version I made, which let's switch back. It's a little bit hard to see, but basically the idea is you have a bolt and these washers on it, and what you do is you take, these are just called fender washers. They're like hard to focus on this tiny thing. 6 millimeters inner diameter, 25 millimeters outer diameter, and they are from a highly durable steel. And you just put them kind of like in here, right? And this has a little groove so that it kind of fits in nicely. You turn this upside down, and then you take one of these guys. I'm trying not to spill these all over my desk. I made this holder for it so that I could more easily this is not going to make me a millionaire, James, but maybe. This holder makes it a little bit easier because in the original version, all these little die holders were in this tiny little case that made it a pain to grab them. Let me go grab that for a second. I think it's in my trash. Yeah, see? So, oh, the sun just came out and blew out my face. Might be a little bit dark now, but all those little things came in this guy, and it made it a really pain in the butt to grab a specific letter out when you're trying to stamp, because they were so tightly packed that, and they were kind of greasy and oily, that it was annoying to do. And then when you're done, you have to put them back, and then you put them back in the wrong order. So I made this little guide to hold them in place, and each one has a specific slot, A through Z, A through Z, right? So while you're doing this, you can easily grab and put back your specific block. And I've made a few different iterations on it now. First, I'll just show, these are all 3D printed, and this is what a print looks like when you stop it halfway through, or even like, a few millimeters into the print. So you basically, I'm sure a lot of you aren't familiar with 3D printing, or I'm guessing. maybe it's more popular now, but I thought this would be useful just to show how this is made, right? You take this block and then the inside has some kind of like infill pattern, in this case triangles. So it's not a solid block of plastic, but triangles are quite strong. And then these perimeters, I've used quite a few walls to make it stronger. And what's the idea here? This was the version that I thought would be the last version, but I've made so many of these now that they're all over my desk. The idea is that you can, what do you say? Stamp and stake with monad, right? And there was a tiny little dot here to show you the orientation, and 4 little dots in here to show you the position of the word. I'm actually going to switch over to Twitter for this to show the pictures. Right, the idea was, as I was doing it, was that you have 5 positions in the block. And the first position is actually to say what number that word is in your seed phrase, right? And the idea here was you could use the letters A through X, which are, you know, the 1st through 24th word of the alphabet. And you put that letter in here with it facing kind of sideways. So it's down, the down direction is facing this dot, this square dot. Because what I figured out was originally in the original video I made, I said, you know, you could have it face the outside. But what I realized when I was doing this was some letters are symmetrical up and down across their horizontal axis, right? Like the letter O, the letter H, the letter I, that you couldn't tell if they were upside down or right side up. So that idea actually was not a good idea, because if you were on the ith word of your key, or the H or the O word of your key, or the X word of your key, you wouldn't be able to tell what number it was or what position it was in. So I decided, instead of doing it up or down, just rotate it 90 degrees. And that will allow you, no letters will be confused if they're sideways, right? So you know that the sideways letter is the one that is your, how do you say? Is the letter that's marking the position, and then your 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th letters go that way. And so I think last night I uploaded this. This is the end, the final version, I believe. So I've just put a P there now for position, right? So you put your position, what do you say, letter in this slot, A through X, and then you go through 1, 2, 3, 4 for your actual seed phrase. And you can buy one of these little die kits for $20 on Amazon. And I'm going to ship a few of these out to James in the States. And yeah, thank you, Patrick. Second best pool. I'm going to, because I live in Japan, shipping can be expensive to the rest of the world. So I think I'll probably send like 5 to 10 of these to James. And then James will ship them on to people in North America, I guess. Maybe Patrick, you want to be my European distribution? Can send maybe, you know, like I said, I think probably 10 to James, 10 to Patrick would be a good start on this. I've already put, for your information, all your all's information, if you already know of a 3D printer or have one, in that unlikely case, the files are online. And you can just download and print it out yourself. So there's this thing, which is just a convenience, right? And there is also this thing. I'll upload new versions of this, obviously, in the next little bit. But that's that. Cool. So that kind of makes sense. Are there any questions about this? I think I kind of went over that quickly, but this is the most recent version now, right? Which just finished last night printing. I like it. It's a little bit larger because I needed room. Those little dots that I was trying to put in here, they didn't really print out well with the resolution of the printer. And what was the other thing? I did feel I've stamped my first 12 words into these washers, and I noticed that, you know, holding this little piece of plastic while you're hitting it with a hammer is not the funnest thing. So I thought that by making it bigger, I have more space to put these markings on it so that it's more idiot proof, right? So that you know that, oh, this is the position marker, and then this is your first, second, third, fourth slot, instead of having to keep track of that yourself like you did, like I was doing over here. And then the key that I found was actually, if you're using a hammer like this, just when you're hitting it, rather than trying to strike it and like move your whole arm, you actually don't need that much force. You can just cock your wrist and smack it like that, and if you do that 2 or 3 times, you'll get enough force and impact to leave a pretty decent impression. And actually, the most important thing is that you're doing this on a hard surface. When I was marking them on my wooden desk, the impressions were rather faint. But when I moved over to a concrete table that I've made, the impressions were much deeper, because I guess, right, the wood can absorb some of the impact, and that results in me. My wife is crawling in here to hand me a coffee. My wife is so cool. It's Valentine's Day, and I'm sitting in front of my computer streaming about magic internet money. James, let's see. That's actually a better idea. I should get you set up with a 3D printer. I actually built my 3D printer from a kit. This is the one that I did, but there's a much, you can get a 3D printer for about, like, I think $200 now. And if you're pretty handy with stuff, you can put it. I think that, what's the Creality Ender is going to become a 3D printing channel. You can get them for, I think, $200 on Amazon. I think this Ender 3 is the best bang for your buck. It's a Chinese thing. But it's amazing what they've been able to do with the price. Like, when I was in school, a 3D printer was like, $20,000 to $30,000, and now this Ender 3, I don't know about this version 2, but even the version 1, this was kind of like a game changer. It's like $200 or so, and you can do shit with it. Oh, rounded corners. They do have a small fillet on the edge. But yeah, I was kind of imagining the same thing. What you just said, Zydemus, is I might make that fillet around that edge more like a few millimeters instead of half a millimeter, so that it can kind of fit into your hand a little bit better. Hi, James. Yeah, James. I should be taking her to a barbecue joint. She's pretty paranoid about us going out right now because we have a 2-month-old baby at home. So we will go to the barbecue joint. James, if you don't know, he donated what is now $1,000 um to get us to go to this yakiniku, which is a Japanese barbecue place. You're probably familiar with Korean barbecue, maybe you've heard of. Very similar Japanese barbecue place, but it's over in Osaka. And actually, now we can probably afford to go, because a train ticket there and back is probably going to run us like $200 or $300 to get over there, and the dinner will probably be, yeah, like $50 to $100. We'll probably splurge. But yeah, James sent me a while ago 1,000 ADA for this purpose. So that will be probably the best video that I ever make. Is I'll actually try to edit it together to do justice to what James has done. But we're gonna go eat some yummy food and pay for it with ADA. Yeah. Peace out, Sam. If you can, yeah, tell us your middle name and your and address. And congratulations, Sam, for building up your ADA bags at 18 years old. Okay, but yeah, you can get one of these. Was that enough of a diversion? Where are we? How do we get back to Reddit? Um, So yeah, talk to James, talk to Patrick if you're interested in getting one of these things. I guess maybe you'll talk to me, and then I'll ask them to ship them on to you and reimburse those guys for shipping. So where are we? I think this is where we finished so far. Carl says hundreds of companies coming to Cardano. Did anyone watch this video? Yeah, of course. James didn't just give me the ADA just to go eat at a restaurant. This restaurant that James was talking about, they actually accept payment in ADA, so I can make a cool post to the subreddit, just like that one guy who paid for his vacation, right? And that'll be cool when what's the Doge meme? One Doge is equal to one Doge. When is it Doge or Doge? When one ADA is equal to one ADA, and we just pay for things in ADA. You have found a hidden star with Cardano. It just created this wallpaper. It should fit your phones. Yes, very cool. These gas fees are pretty crazy, right? That's what this post is about. 257 Ether in gas fees for a swap. I don't know what a swap is. I don't do swaps. My man James here is a pretty crypto heavy dude. He's making tons of money on Uniswap without knowing about it, so that's cool. Somebody just switched in from XRP to ADA. Woohoo! I really don't like XRP. I think XRP and Tether are my two big pet peeves in crypto. I don't know what you guys think, but I will be super happy. I didn't even imagine it was in the realm of possibility. Oh crap! A little bit of a dip back down. When we pass Tether, I think that will be so cool. What are we at? 28 billion market cap. They're at 31, and they just like magically print Tether out of thin air whenever a company supposedly gives them money as debt, agrees to writes them an IOU, they basically get Tether. It's pretty interesting. So could happen. There you go, James. James is gonna set up that's actually James. That's actually a pretty smart idea. You know what I might do is, rather than spending $30 or $40 to ship you these things, what do you think if I send you $30 or $40 or something towards you buying a 3D printer and help you get it set up and stuff like that? That feels a little bit smarter to me than shipping stuff around the world. When the whole point of 3D printing is that you get it's actually, I'm gonna tie this into crypto. I think 3D printing and crypto are both kind of related, because what 3D printing is supposed to enable is like decentralized manufacturing, right? It's like no longer is it more efficient to make things in China. It is more efficient to make things in China if you're making like a million of them, because injection molding will always beat 3D printing. Or will, for the foreseeable future, beats 3D printing, right? Because it costs like $50,000 or something to make a mold, and then you can, shit out little pieces of plastic for like a few cents each shot very quickly. Whereas 3D printing takes, like 2 to 3 hours to make this thing. But if you're only trying to make like 100 of these, it's so much cheaper to make these on 3D printers than it is to make them on injection molded machines. And a 3D printer can be located anywhere, like we just discovered, or like we were just talking about. And so that could be cool for James too, with your kids, James. They're pretty cool for playing around and making little tchotchkes for your kids with. Probably the main use case for 3D printing right now, right? And as the reason why I think that it's related to crypto, of course, crypto is about like being your own bank and decentralizing things away from the center. So what about this? IOHK announces $1 million development fund. I thought this was cool, and I think, as much as we don't like to talk about price, this is like 4 times the fiat equivalent of the last round, and I think this is directly related to the price, and it's kind of amazing now, right? I think they can afford to do this because this doesn't cost them as much ADA as it used to. right? Their ADA that they're putting into the round is probably the same or is very similar or even less than it was last round. But they're able to fund people so much more because ADA is worth so much more. I can mail you an autograph for about $1 versus the $40 to $50 from my cheap ass to mail you this stuff. It's double the fee. Is it double? I thought the last round was $250,000. Was it $500,000, Patrick? Can we vote using Ledger wallets already? Yeah. Does anyone know if the voting process is better now this time around, or is it still this weird version? I really want to do something in Catalyst though. I submitted a proposal last time that was in the wrong category. I think I don't see Nostradamus in here. Nostradamus wants to do proof of life. If he's watching this now or later, I think it's the proof of life idea is pretty cool, but I don't understand. Like, I think anyone can do it using Marlowe because you just need like a heartbeat. And I don't know how in my previous work in kind of intellectual property and R&D, like what you kind of talk about defensible space, like if you make something, whether or not you can defend it or not. So I don't know. I don't think that proof of life is a defendable product, or it's not clear to me that it is, because I think anyone with about 5 minutes might be able to whip up that solution in the Cardano blockchain. Patrick, do you know what I'm talking about? Or one of the technical computer science people? Let me try and see. I think I was just looking around at this actually. Marlowe Playground. So okay, just to take Nostradamus's idea. He if you're not familiar, Nostradamus is this French speaking. He's not from France, but French speaking. I don't want to give away too many of his personal details. French speaking guy who came up with this Catalyst project. He used to have a YouTube channel. He just started it again to solve this problem that I and maybe James and other people have. Is like, if you have a crypto wallet and you want your kids to or your spouse to inherit it, but they don't know everything about keys and all that kind of stuff, what's a good way to address that? It doesn't. I right now I just pulled up this Blockly view into Marlowe, which is what I was playing around with. But what I'll just get to the point of what Nostradamus's idea is. Basically, there's a heartbeat. Like you check in on your phone and you say, yes, I'm alive. Yes, I'm alive. And you set the interval. It can be like, it could be every minute. It could be every month. It could be once a year. And if that check-in doesn't happen some number of times in a row, like 2 times in a row or 5 times in a row, what he wants to happen is to automatically trigger the sending of the ADA in your wallet from your wallet to a designated address, right? And I guess the idea is that pre-designated address would be owned by a loved one or whoever you want to inherit your money, whether or not you love them. And supposedly, I guess they would, have that available to them already installed on their phone. And it's not clear to me how that, I guess they can know the full keys and seed phrase of that word. And while you're alive, there's no danger of them taking your money. It's only that if you're dead, they can get access to your funds. Right? So that's actually kind of similar to this escrow contract, which is already built in Marlowe's playground, right? So this is a contract that when Alice and Bob come to an agreement, when they both say, choice equals 1, then Alice will pay somebody else 450 ADA. And so I think the idea just requires a small modification of this existing escrow contract. I think the easiest way to implement it is basically, off the top of my head, is to make a kind of like a gas fee in the contract, that as long, like every time you say yes, you're basically receiving a transaction at some predefined address. And if that address does not receive that, 0.00001 ADA, or whatever the minimum ADA fee is, then the contract will cause the ADA to be dumped. Does that make sense, Patrick? I think that's the easiest way to implement this concept without referring to some external oracle or some external service or application to make it all on the blockchain. It's to say that this contract makes a new address. If that address isn't fed every n days, then the beast will give all the money in this account to some other account, right? So that's kind of not nice, in that it requires you to spend an ADA every month or every year or whatever you set that to. But I think that's the easiest way to do it without having to build some elaborate service, which is checking some API and checking in, and I would get pretty uncomfortable with that, actually, because what if that service goes down, or what if that company no longer exists? So I think it makes the most sense to implement it inside of the, as I think Patrick is saying, is like inside of the language of the Cardano blockchain, right? Where you're sorry, I'm putting this above my face cam, but and I guess you could take a small portion of that fee for making this contract, but Nostradamus's idea is that, like, you might pay 1% or 2% or something to somebody else as a function of doing this. But I think it'd be pretty easy just to write this contract without any fees and just as a service to anyone who wants to use it. And I don't think there's anything you can defend in that IP. So that's my one, I don't think, concern, because I think it's a useful and valuable service for people to have, but I don't think you can build a product or a company out of it. Zadimus, that's a really good observation. Are you in software or design? Like I said, yeah, I agree with you. Like, having to send that transaction to this address every time, you could make an app which automated that button. So basically, when you push that button, it was, authorizing you to send that money, rather than having to like remember that address and that kind of thing. But at its essence, I think that is kind of how I imagine that kind of proof of life would work. I think we got a pretty interesting, mix of people in this chat, and I just wanted to say thank you. Yeah, that could be, Patrick. That's a great idea. Some kind of value add to build some kind of added conveniences in, so that yeah, yeah, right. Different ideas there. Um, so I'm gonna somebody send a clip of this to Nostradamus. And when Nostradamus watches, I apologize. We haven't been able to chat together offline. I've been quite occupied with personal life and work and other stuff. So we should get together soon. Oh, my thoughts on Cardano after following the project since 2017. This is the year of Cardano. I think so. I think this is going to be a pretty amazing year for Cardano. Like we talked about earlier in the stream, there's just so much stuff that's coming online right now, and it's just quite an exciting time. I don't know. Did you see this guy's video? He actually posted it. I like this. Who would like to see me create brief videos explaining each of IOG's Cardano's research papers? Sorry, I'm just reading what's going on in chat. But this guy actually did it. Yeah, he edited the video. I think this is a pretty good initiative. He's like, this is funny to me because one of the last names in this paper is the same last name as my wife's maiden name. But I think this guy is an electrical engineer by training, something like that, not a computer scientist. And he got a lot of really good feedback. And he went through this paper and kind of explained it. I didn't watch it yet. I plan on doing that. And if you guys like this, if you think I should do stuff like this, let me know. I'll totally steal Cylonix's idea. Actually, my computer science PhD friend wanted to do the same thing, but I thought he was talking about this guy's idea because he talked to me about it afterwards. So there's some interest in that. Yeah, I'm confused. 1024th. How? Then of course you store your ADA on your ledger and the contract gets screwed because I think what 1024th is meaning is if you store your ledger on your if you store your ADA on your ledger, you can't, how do you say, sign that transaction without the ledger being plugged in and, agreeing to it. So I think what would have to happen is that, I don't know, can a smart contract like store the signature of a transaction in it before it executes the transaction? Yeah, so I'm guessing yeah, perfect, very good point. I think how that would have to work is like you would only be able to authorize it for the amount of ADA that you had in your wallet at present, maybe. I don't know if you would be able to right, yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to get at, Patrick, is that you can authorize a smart contract to have the ADA in it. But then I'm wondering what would happen to your staking rewards and other kinds of things, right? Maybe you'd essentially, this could be interesting. You'd essentially also be having to build like a stake pool to hold those funds as an intermediary escrow and to pay out rewards into it. Does that make sense, Patrick? And then that smart contract would be holding your ADA for you. It would be a little bit inconvenient. Yeah. So I'm not sure. Like, would the ADA not still be in your ledger? I guess that's what I'm saying. But it's a little bit complicated to think it through because once the ADA is in the smart contract, it's not really in your wallet, right, Patrick? And you can't really you'd have to make more of like a client application, I guess, that had some kind of like server connection to check if this thing happened, and if it didn't happen, then it would submit a transaction to a Cardano node to send out the money. Does that make sense, Patrick? You guys got any questions or any topics you want to talk about? I'll do a few more of these posts in the Cardano subreddit, but if you want to do an AMA or talk about other stuff, please feel free. Otherwise, we'll probably wrap it up pretty soon. I got burned by this. Anyone see that Binance upped their withdrawal fees for ADA to 5 ADA? First to 3 ADA and then to 5 ADA. Who's my favorite Greek god? Can I say a half god? Can I say Heracles? Can I say Alexander the Great? He's not a god, but a Macedonian dude. Is that too self-centered? Who's a favorite Greek god? Maybe Poseidon. I don't know. The ocean is pretty cool. It's pretty dope. These are the two Greek people I know. No, I really like Greek mythology. I like how do you say? I like origin stories. I think I like a lot of Norse, you know, what do you call it? Asgard and Valhalla and all those kind of things. And you know, I'm now married to an Indian woman. It's quite interesting to me how similar all these origin stories are. Like there's floods and there's water coming down and there's, you know, a dude with lightning. Indra, I think, is the lightning god in Hindu mythology, but they're all so similar. It all points back to like some kind of common origin story, right? So you actually touched on something. I'm trying to think. Maybe Aphrodite, you know. Sean Berger's asking in chat, could you explain what smart contracts are to me? Sure, let's give that a go. That's a good question. So I'm actually going to pull this back up again, and I'm going to open a simpler example maybe. A smart contract is basically, well, we can start by talking about what a blockchain is, and people say Bitcoin was the first kind of cryptocurrency because it allowed people to send and receive money um, online without trusting anyone else, right? We good there? And then there was this idea pretty early on in Bitcoin for something called like colored tokens, colored coins, stuff like this. That what if you used a marked Bitcoin, kind of like a marked card in a deck, to say this Bitcoin actually represents something else. So like I could color a coin and say that, you know, this coin represents the deed to my house, and whoever holds this colored, this specific address, this specific Bitcoin owns my house, right? And I could send that around and sell that. That idea eventually turned into this more kind of fleshed out and better idea, which became the Ethereum project, which is uh the idea that not just would you be able to send and receive money, but you would also be able to, you know, set up conditional statements. I'll show you what that is. There's this project that I interacted with a lot called If This Then That, IFTTT. And this is a popular kind of Internet of Things project where you can basically string together a bunch of different services so that when one thing happens, you do another thing, right? Where is this? Let's say smart home stuff. You could say like, you know what a Nest doorbell is, right? When I get a Nest doorbell function thing, you know, tweet me a photo or DM me a photo of the doorbell on Instagram. That's kind of what I'm getting at with a smart contract. A smart contract is basically a way to link together, um, this idea of IFTT. If this happens, then do this. It's like a basic tenet of programming, so that you set up a kind of conditional logic to say, if there's, I was thinking about this, you can make an insurance program using oracles on a blockchain to say, you know, if a Category 5 hurricane strikes Louisiana, pay me $1 million, and it would cost you maybe $100,000 or something like that to take out that contract to buy that, right? So a smart, does that kind of explain a smart contract or no? Let's use a different example. We have Patrick in channel, and we have James in channel, and we have Sean in channel, right? Let's say, Sean, you trust Patrick, and James trusts Patrick, but neither of you trusts each other, right? Does that make sense? You with me so far? Let's actually let me diagram this a little bit. I'm gonna pull up a notepad. 1 second, I'm opening it on my second monitor, and then I'll send it over to the main one. Okay. So let's just label this out. I'm gonna do one of my mouse drawings. We have Sean. I'm sorry, the S is so bad, Sean. And we have James. And we have Patrick. Very good question, by the way, Sean. This is good content. Let's say from your previous experience in dealing, Sean trusts Patrick, right? Like you guys have worked together in the past and you know each other. And let's say James also trusts Patrick, right? But let's say let's say James has something. Let's say he has, how do you say? I don't know. What's a thing that James has? He has a hammer. He's got Thor's hammer. Yes, I have watched the Marvel movies, Patrick. And let's say Sean has Ada. Right? We can kind of how would you write a smart contract with escrow such that Sean can maybe send Patrick money and James can send Patrick a hammer, and when both of these conditions are met, the hammer goes from James to Patrick to Sean, and the money goes from Sean to Patrick to James. Does that make sense? Everyone trusts Patrick. So to answer your question, Sean, a smart contract is just a way of embedding this kind of logic to say that, like, if Patrick receives this Ada from Sean, and if Patrick receives this hammer from James, then Patrick will send Sean the hammer, and Sean will send Patrick will send James Sean's money, right? But kind of in some systems, Patrick doesn't need to exist. That's why I chose Patrick and not me. Right? Because fuck Patrick. And you could kind of make this kind of escrow system, right? Where we can set up some conditions in this contract where unless these conditions are met, this other thing never happens. So let's use a better example. Let's use ADA and Ergo. Ergo, if you don't know, is another cryptocurrency, right? We can say this smart contract exists out here in the ether, and Sean's going to send one ADA to it, and James is going to send one Ergo to it. And if both of these things don't happen within some time window, then Sean will get back his ADA or James will get back his Ergo, and nothing will happen, right? But if this smart contract receives one ADA from Sean and one Ergo from James, then it will send on the Ergo to Sean and the ADA to James. Do I own Patrick's asking, do I own Ergo? I actually just started mining Ergo. Yeah, good example, 1/1024th. In on my I have a 2070 Super that I use for my work doing training AI models and stuff like that. So before I do it on like a AWS cloud instance using those big, what do they call them, Tesla or V series GPUs, I do small pieces of models on my workstation, and so at home. So I started mining Ergo, I think last week, recently, just to have fun with it. I don't know. I haven't checked. Let me check my wallet. Let me see. I only did it for about a day or two, and I wanted to see if I would get anything. I'm not sure. Electricity is pretty expensive in Japan, So I don't think I can do it profitably because we have very high electricity rates. So I'm opening my wallet in Yoroi right now. The good thing about mining Ergo is that the Yoroi Chrome browser extension, at least, has the ability to make an Ergo wallet, and basically all you need to do on your command line is just put in that wallet address. And see, is it safe to show this screen? I think so. It looks like I don't have any Ergo. I will send this over. Back to my wallets. This is just a test wallet that I made a little while ago. So this is an Ergo wallet, and I'll just show this very quickly. If you want to make an Ergo wallet, it's pretty easy. My new wallet, create wallet, Cardano or Ergo. You can do that, right? I'll go back because I don't want to make another one. And you get this, and I'll actually show you. My computer will grind to a halt, I think. Is it? Where did I put that? Is it an Envy miner? This is going to be a pain in the butt. Never mind. But basically, you just have to run a command on your command line and then put in your wallet address, and then the rewards will come to it. So that's a way to mine Ergo. But it looks like I didn't mine long enough to actually receive anything, or the payout didn't happen yet. So I gotta check in on that. I couldn't figure out how to set the niceness. So when I mine Ergo, it totally slows down my computer 100%. Like I need to leave a few percent for updating the screen because I only have one GPU in it. So I couldn't figure out how to do that in the short time I was playing with it. But I'll probably leave it on and let it mine once I figure that out. Sean Berger's asking, what was it? How will Cardano help Africans send payments? Yeah, I sent my Ergo to Sean. A lot of good questions in here. So, for those of you that don't know, I'm gonna show you something quick. This is called an Aadhaar card, and I lived for 3 years in India, and there's this huge problem in India, or there was a huge problem in India, where for you and I, like getting a driver's license, even in the States, actually, you talk about like should voter ID be a thing or not, whatever, right? And tends to be this idea that underprivileged communities don't have access to IDs as much, right? So by requiring voter registration or voter ID, you're discriminating against people who don't have IDs. Put aside the American thing for a second. But in India, it's a huge problem when you have like 1 billion people. How do you verify that someone is someone? And how do you know that how do you give them all driver's licenses, or how do you give them all these different things? And so this Aadhaar card was a pretty cool idea from my perspective, and a little bit flawed in some other ways, but basically you have to go to like a government center, you scan your iris and you give them a fingerprint, and then that goes into their database, and you have this piece of paper which is not even technically the ID. The ID is your eye and your thumb, right? And this piece of paper, it's very confusing for a lot of Indians. The piece of paper is not an official document. The official document is an API that people can build apps against to verify whether or not you are you. And so it's a pretty cool system in some perspective, because I actually used this to open a bank account when I lived in India, right? This little dude on a scooter came out to my work during my lunch break. I put my thumbprint onto a little device he had plugged into his phone. He worked for the bank, right? And the bank did their whole KYC process, which you guys are probably familiar with from being in the crypto space, through this Aadhaar API. And so the bank, which was just a normal Indian bank, could verify that I was me and that I wanted to open a bank account through that way. So in Africa, this is a long way of getting to the point of Sean's question, is that one of the first things to do when you want to send and receive money is to like just have an identity. And that's what a little bit I think Atala Prism is getting at. And I think that is actually what is being announced for Ethiopia is basically building something like this Aadhaar system that is done in India, except instead of doing it, I think the Aadhaar system was built with Microsoft and some other, Silicon Valley smart Indian guys as the contracting provider. Ethiopia seems like they've done it with IOHK built on top of Atala. And I'm guessing they don't even really care too much that it's on Atala. They just probably put out a bid to build a system like this. And IOHK probably won. I'm guessing they don't really know or care too much about blockchain services and whatnot. Or maybe it was part of the pitch. But these kind of systems exist. And once you can identify people electronically, then it's much easier for people to send and receive money. So I think the most popular one was this what's it, like ZebPay or African mobile phone payment. M-Pesa was this service that you could SMS money to different people, and I think this is still one of the leading services in Africa for sending and receiving money. So yeah, that's pretty cool. What am I doing? I got the wrong thing open. I'm trying to find the questions again. They are. Is there value? Would people buy ADA and then be able to send it as money? Yes, please send me anything. Yes, people can buy ADA and send it as money. Actually, James did this. Right, James? Sorry, you guys have typed a lot of questions while I was talking about nothing. James sent me 1,000 ADA to go buy to go spend at a restaurant that accepts ADA. I'll just pull that up quickly. YouTube or ADA Yakiniku restaurant, and who is it? It's by Emergo. So James found out about this restaurant, and I'm supposed to go there and buy. This is the restaurant. This restaurant in Japan, which is about 3 hours away from where I live by train, high-speed train. That's Sebastian, I think. They accept ADA as payment. So to answer Sean's question, yeah. So I think Patrick was making a joke. Stream stops in 3, 2, 1 when I was saying I'm going to start running my Ergo miner. Yeah, that was part of the reason I decided not to do that. Zytemus, is there value to be made in mining Ergo? I've got a heavy GPU, or is it huge centers only? Sorry, I don't know anything about Ergo. If you just want to mine Ergo just to make money now, then I think it depends more on your electricity rates and the amount of time you have, right? Because let's say most people who are mining, they're usually like immediately selling whatever coin they're mining and buying Bitcoin with it. And it usually, from what I know, mining on GPUs now only really makes sense if you have cheap power. The price of the GPU doesn't really matter so much. If you want, this is where it gets a little bit more complicated. If you think the price of Ergo or the price of the coin you're mining is going to go up in the future, it might make more sense, right? But I would argue that if you don't have cheap power, you're probably better off just buying the coin instead of paying Like I calculated, it would cost me, like $200 or $300 a month, if I wanted to mine Ergo based on my electricity prices. And the point that I'm trying to make is it easier or better for me to just go buy $200 or $300 of Ergo rather than trying to mine it, right? So let's see. Cardano will initially provide liquidity to unbanked Africans. See liquid.finance. Thank you, 1024th. Yeah, so the idea is that if you have, it's pretty easy to get a Cardano address, to have a Cardano wallet and potentially link that up with your Atala Prism Ethiopian ID. And then all these other banking services can be provided to you, not just the ability to send and receive money, but also the ability to get a loan or to give a loan, right? I think that's one of the cooler things. I noticed in India there's lots of these things called chit groups, where communities basically come together. They're kind of scammy, actually. Like, let's say 100 people will come together and put their life savings of $1,000 into it. And then what will happen is, if you have 100 people who put $1,000 into something, what is that? That's like $100,000, right? That's a decent chunk of money. People in that group will then bid against each other for $50,000 of that money, and they will agree. They will pay a higher interest rate, right? So if James and I are in that pool, James bids 5%. I'll bid 5.5%, and then maybe Patrick will come in and he'll bid 6%. Patrick will get the $50,000 because he's agreed to pay 6% interest rate back to the rest of the group. And because we're all kind of linked together by some kind of community or identity, we have some incentive to pay it back. Because if we don't, then our aunts and uncles and everybody will hate us forever, right? But that's called a chit group. And you can imagine something like that also working on a Cardano Atala based identity blockchain, where people could pool together resources and basically provide loans or insurance or other financial services to each other, even though the amount of capital that they might personally own could be quite small. Mine using NiceHash and take payment in BTC. Yeah. So 1024th, last night there was a pretty big earthquake in Japan, and my wife was already in bed, and I was over here working on some stuff. And I have some like bees and other stuff behind me in the background. When I came I heard some things fall in this room, and some of this stuff on the shelf over there had fallen onto the floor. Luckily, the glass didn't break or anything. That was pretty lucky. But there was a big earthquake in Japan, and so when I opened this stream, I kind of said, what did I say? I hope everyone's doing well. I hope everyone's safe. Kind of gave me some perspective on things outside of crypto. Sean, did that answer your question? Those are some good questions. Actually, I think this is the most fun part of streaming for me, is answering questions live and talking with you guys. Let's see if there's anything else. This just trips me out. Sorry, I'm still a streaming noob. You guys seeing myself streaming to you now? Yeah, definitely. It goes back to, okay, Sean, this is a very good point. Bitcoin was just about sending and receiving money. Ethereum was about kind of generation 2.0, where you added an ability to make contracts for that. And I'd say Ethereum is kind of like Bitcoin with a little bit of salt. And I'd say that Cardano or ADA is kind of like Ethereum, but it's like a better version of that salt, because one, it kind of mixes the two together. Ethereum has, I believe, an inflationary monetary policy where there's no cap on the number of Ethereum there will ever be. whereas Cardano has kind of like Bitcoin, a fixed cap, even though that cap is much higher. And the one of the best things about Cardano actually is the separation from the computation layer and the transaction layer. So Ethereum mashes everything together in this kind of smart contract thing. So you have all these ERC20 tokens, which are like implemented inside of smart contracts. And what Cardano does, and what's actually launching later this month, which is super cool, is this native token, multi-asset native token. So ADA is just the first among many, right? There will be a lot more other native tokens on ADA, and they will exist as tokens, not as little pieces of smart contracts. And on top of all that, probably the actually, people don't talk about it much, but I think the biggest differentiator is the Voltaire part of Cardano, where people will be able to vote on changes to the blockchain. We kind of touched on it quickly as we were doing the subreddit review. I'm curious what you guys all feel about the 340 min fee for your stake pool, because right now, right, or in the past, 340 ADA was not that much money. And so what I would imagine is that now that 340 ADA is, 340 bucks basically, if you're a pool who's minting a block every 5 days, you're getting a good chunk of money as a pool operator. And I can imagine, if I can get Monad up to 1.2, 1.3 million delegation, it's conceivable if this 340 ADA stays where it is and ADA continues to stay the same or go up, I might be able to retire and just run my pool and do other projects that I'm interested in doing on Cardano and not have to go to my day job, right? So I'm just wondering, but at the same time, I'm wondering, I don't know that people are going to be okay with this 340 ADA cost going forward, because in the past, 340 ADA times 6 was, like 30 bucks or something, right? Yeah. So I would also argue that I'm totally fine with the min cost, but I think it should be a minimum percentage fee rather than a minimum ADA fee, because I do think that this tends to hurt small pool operators, and I like small pool operators. So if you're not aware, for those in chat, I do run a pool called Monad, which I'm trying to promote. Part of the reason why I do these, and this little thing is my newest piece of swag for Monad delegators. So if you want one of these things and you live somewhere in the world, let me know in DMs over on Twitter or some other place, and we'll try to figure out how to get one to you efficiently. And yeah, let's. I was sharing my screen, but I wasn't sharing it. I was talking about me. So if you are on Cardano and you aren't already staked with Monad, please consider staking with Monad. We're trying to get to 400,000, and we've had a little bit of a dry spell actually on, what do you call it? I think we've stopped growing for a little bit because, close this. We got 2 blocks in 239 and 241 where we were very lucky, and now it's gone on quite some time, it feels like. And actually our chances of minting a block have gone way up. We're at like 31% chance now, thanks to all this new stake that's come in, but we haven't minted a block. And just FYI for everyone, because I think we have a few delegators in the channel now. We've run the leader log, so we didn't miss a block, we just weren't assigned any block. That's a little bit different, right? If we had missed a block, that would mean something on our infrastructure was down, but we weren't assigned a block. So I have a feeling like in the next epoch or two, like we're at this point, we're overdue, because we've had a few epochs now where we've had this good chunk of ADA staked in our pool, and we haven't had a block. Of course, every epoch is independent of the others, but like, what is the chance of flipping 5 tails in a row? Every individual chance has a 50% chance of being a tails, but there is some kind of a compounded unlikelihood that you will get a streak of something. Cytomus. Isn't that kind of crazy? The point of running pools wasn't to help people retire. LOL. Yeah, exactly. I'll agree with you here. Let me clarify, Zydemus. I don't want to retire. I want to work on Cardano related projects. But in order to do that, I need to be able to support my family because I do have a wife and 4 kids, and I'm the sole income earner in my house. So I need to be able to replace that income stream and have some kind of like peace of mind and certainty. And the reason I opened the Monad pool was I actually think the pool is a much smaller piece of what I would like to do. It's just where I'm getting started out. Thank you, Sean, for taking with us. So just to be clear, right, there's a few other things that I do. First, probably is this thing where I'm trying to show what is the Cardano network at, where do we need to grow and stuff like that. The website is loading in. I'd like to kind of work on this a little bit more. I'd also like to work on some DApp type stuff, but Monad, the pool, is just a way for me to get my kind of name out there into the Cardano blockchain space, and you know, also provide a competitive, valuable service to everyone in the Cardano community. So let's see where I'm catching up with your stuff. The price 1,024th. The price also affects transaction fees. A 17-cent ADA is a 0.17 ADA is a typical fee at $1. That 17 cents is at $10. That $1.70 fee could go high like ETH. Yeah. So yeah, if the price of ADA goes up, that's actually what I'm talking about. 1,024th is at what point will the community decide, oh, the minimum fee should not be 340 ADA, the minimum fee should be 34 ADA, right? Because that affects my calculus of whether or not I can work on this full time or not. Does that make sense? Zydemus, actually, yeah, I agree. The work part of a pool is promoting one's own pool. The server runs itself. Once it's set up, isn't that the point of crypto and reducing transaction costs? So one of the things I don't like about the Cardano space right now is that the way that pools seem to attract delegates is by running YouTube channels. Do you notice? Do you imagine the reason why I'm on YouTube at all is actually, yeah, like I'm trying to I was working on a bunch of different tools and different things, but of course, if you work on something and you don't talk about it or show it to people, then it effectively doesn't exist, right? So I would like my pool to be delegated to by people who are interested in the projects I'm working on. And I'd like to use my, you know, the projects I'm working on to get to provide utility and be useful to people in the Cardano community. And rather than having them pay for access, you know, I got a really good comment over on Cardano subreddit last time I posted this Epic update. Someone was, you know, they thought that I was just taking screenshots of someone else's app or someone else's website. And then, you know, we got into it and he understood, oh, this is something that I made. He said, oh, you should monetize this. You know, you should, you know, like sell it to people. I don't know. I felt really warm and fuzzy because that made me feel good that he thought that I had something worth selling. But I kind of, you know, I don't know that anybody would actually pay for access to this site. But my hope is that, you know, if people find this tool useful, there's two things that I hope that will happen. I hope people use this tool to delegate to pools that are operating infrastructure in unique regions to help support the network growing that way. And I hope, as a little bit of a meta thing, they think, oh, the guy, Alex, who runs Monad Pool, who set up this tool, this is actually also important for the network to be able to grow. So I'm going to delegate, you know, some money to pools who are operating in South America and Africa, but I'm also going to help support Alex in his mission to get more visibility for those pools, right? Does it make sense? I should make my logo on the site bigger. Yeah, I started I finally started putting a little watermark when I post this thing. Where is it? Let me go find that. Because I don't know, this account has gotten quite a chunk of karma, 2,500 karma. So now when I post this, you see at the bottom, I put down my little for a while until last epoch. I think I wasn't posting anything, but at least now I have my ticker, Twitter, social stuff down at the bottom. So there's that. So there's that, and that's fun. So there's this, maybe these little tchotchkes, how to secure your wallet safely and securely. Maybe this proof of life stuff with Nostradamus. I think that it's a little bit of a chicken and egg thing, actually, as Itemus. Like, we want there to be cool stuff on the Cardano blockchain, but we need, I'd say that the kind of stuff that we have so far is kind of all hobbyist level and, how do you say, not really fleshed out, because it's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of projects like mine, which are like projects in your free time, right? Like I work on this site and on these little things, after work and on the weekends, and that actually eats into time that I should be spending with my family, right? So the fact of the matter is, as a software engineer, I earn a pretty decent income doing what I do, and good or bad, I have a lifestyle which is supported by that income stream. And so for me to be able to work on Cardano, there, unless I can make a similar amount of money to what I'm making right now, there's a very high opportunity cost for me to switch from my day job, where I, think about and train and develop AI models for a large company, to working only on Cardano. And I'm much more interested in working on Cardano, right? Because this is actually like super cool to me and it gets me excited, right? Whereas maybe making price predictions or forecasting supply and demand for consumer goods is it's cool because I like the technology, but it's not what I wake up in the middle of the night thinking about, right? So um what I'm trying to get at is, operating pools is one way to be in the Cardano space right now and make money off of Cardano, so that, right, like I don't want to just be a pool operator. I want to have some cool projects built on top of Cardano. But this is just a start for me, from my perspective, and I think other people like Patrick, um, yeah, right, and it's one of the unique things. I feel like, just being on YouTube, there's 9 people watching the stream right now. My videos get 100 to 200 views if they get well received. Like, a normal YouTube channel couldn't survive on that, right? But in the Cardano space, the reason I started a YouTube channel was I saw that all these like YouTube personalities had like pools with 60 million ADA staked in them, right? We can just pull it up quickly. Pool Tool IO. What's Kaizen? Kaizen, right? Or is it 56 million, 52 million? What's another one? Bloom is of course there, right? Bloom, 60, 57, 52, 46, 51, 47. So many of the large pools in the Cardano space are YouTube channels. And it's actually interesting. A lot of the tech people in the Cardano space who are actually developing stuff, like the Andrew Westberg or other people. Actually, Andrew Westberg's a bad example. He's got Blue Cheese Steakhouse, which has got tons of steak. But other projects that are running on Cardano, they don't tend to attract so much attention. So part of what I'm trying to do in this channel is to kind of bridge the gap a little bit between some of the technical operators and some of the YouTube operators, and try to maybe highlight some of the projects that are going on that people are using to develop, or that people are developing projects that are built on top of Cardano. So, oh, it looks like my battery died. Heck. I actually use a little mirrorless camera over here, and it runs out of battery after some amount of time. So I think that was a good chunk of questions. What was going on? Projects are great. Maybe this is yeah, exactly. People working on GIMP and Blender. There's a lot of I do have some friends who work on open source projects. Not my friends, friends of friends, basically, like inside of big corporations like Intel or whoever, like writing patches to the Linux kernel, stuff like that, for a commercial company. So what's going on in chat? I'm a little bit confused. 1024th at Patrick Tobler. Found it. Thanks. Okay, pools are making too much each week. I disagree. So you think he's making too much money? 1024th. So he's lost, like he's sold out. Is that what's going on? I'm confused. There's that. But I'm actually looking forward to, I think, round 4 of Catalyst. The fees are too much with ADA being $1. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at. I don't think they're too much, but I think that, yeah, they're probably too much. I would anticipate that if people were able to vote on it, they would lower the fees, right? Because I think the idea originally was, it probably cost $100 to $200 a month to run a server farm. And I think the min fees originally were meant to cover that kind of like base infrastructure level cost. But now you can make 340 times 6, around $1,800 to $2,000 a month just from the min fee. Yeah, I don't think the community will move to drop the min fee right now, but I would expect and anticipate and not be surprised if the community decided to lower that min fee, in the next couple months or so, after some higher priority stuff is addressed. So I was just curious, and it looks like there is some discussion going on in chat about how do you guys feel? Like, I think, yeah, for the next couple months, people are probably okay with it. But if ADA goes to, $5, $1,500 every 5 days for running a pool with 1.5 million ADA in it, probably people will think is too much. But I guess people would have a lot more money. Probably takes 3 months of stability for the action to occur, which balances the min fee. Yeah. And Patrick is saying the fees and fiat need to keep rising because the network grows. We want to have better infrastructure, and the operators need money to invest in that. If ADA goes to $5, the pools will be responsible for millions of people. This is actually, Patrick, I want to pull this up. And Patrick, we should figure out a way for you to call in to this. I'd like to talk to you live sometime. Where was that tweet that you put out, Patrick? Was it under Babel? Not. There was something about Haskell. Patrick, can you link that tweet? It was I went off on a tangent inside of it. This one. Real Cardano hot take. Using Haskell was a mistake. Fight me. Right? And I got mentioned by, I think, La Resistance. in here, but actually I thought this was a pretty interesting comment and kind of took it in a different way. So these guys were talking about how maybe you could have a different implementation of Cardano using a different language, and I think this Mark Stopka guy, right? He's, I think, working on a implementation of Rust, written in Rust, I believe. That was a long time ago. But one thing that I started to think about in this was, I can't find the tweet. Maybe I can find it in my tweets and replies. But this idea of writing a Haskell node in Kotlin or on some Android language, right? Because what I feel is I've had, where's my phone? I've had this Samsung S9 Plus, which I've dropped a few times, and I used to upgrade phones every year because I was an idiot and I didn't buy crypto and I'd spend too much money on stupid phones. But I'm pretty interested in nowadays in stuff like what is this Motorola Edge S. This is like a $300 phone, which was just released. It's got a Snapdragon 870 and 8 gigs of RAM. And an 8-core processor. The 870 is basically like the 865, which was the flagship of last year, but a little bit faster. And I think it'd be pretty cool to have like a stake pool and a box kit. Zydemus. So yeah, we're getting into it now. This is cool. So it's actually interesting. I actually disagree a little bit with what you're saying, Patrick. I think that at least in the programming community that I'm a part of, like Haskell is a very well respected language, and the example that I hear a lot is like if you have like 5 decent Haskell engineers, they can accomplish what you could accomplish with maybe like 50 normal engineers, right? And I think part of that is it actually doesn't really have to do a lot. It has a little bit to do with Haskell. Haskell is a very interesting language from a conceptual standpoint, but it's also actually the utility of Haskell and its difficulty that filters out a lot of noobs and uninterested people. That people talk about the downside of Haskell being difficult, but it's actually a very useful filter. You know, I happened to go to an elite college in undergrad in Japan, like a Harvard of Japan, and I just I got into it, but I didn't really care about it. I didn't think it was a big deal. My father kind of got really excited when I got in because he's Japanese and he thought I should definitely go, and I didn't really give a fuck. But for him, and what I understood later, it's not really the school that matters. It was like the utility of finding and being with all those other people who got in. And what am I trying to get at here with the Haskell connection? The difficulty of getting in and the exclusivity is actually the point of the institution. And by it's not nice at all. I don't think it's good at all. By rejecting like 95% of the people who apply, you're getting this 5% that are left over, who are, you know, they're somehow special or something, and it kind of like self-selects for something interesting. And what I'm saying, Haskell is kind of like an elite university, and by pushing away like 95 or even 97 or 99% of the people who you do get who are interested in Haskell tend to be a pretty interesting bunch of people. Because one, they've shown that they are, I would argue it's even more so than the uniqueness of the language and what the language enables. The people who have learned Haskell have shown some kind of dedication and some kind of idiosyncratic behavior to like not do the normal thing. Right? They're kind of either contrarians or kind of, you know, eccentric personalities. And so what I'm trying to say is that, like, I think most Haskell people who write Haskell and take the time to learn Haskell tend to be those kind of like 10xer personality types. And yeah, probably if you took those people who know Haskell and you made them write Cardano in Rust, or even, something silly like Python or something like that, they'd probably do a good job of it anyways, because they're smart and driven people. But having the strongly typed, lazily evaluated features in Haskell also, I think, lends something to blockchain development and financial development, which is kind of, to me, it's here's where I'll try to come up with a more cohesive argument. Haskell is really an embodiment of how IOHK is trying to develop Cardano versus how Polkadot or Ethereum is developed, right? By that I mean, like, for me, Ethereum and especially Polkadot, they have a very Facebooky move fast and break things type attitude to software development. And that works if you're developing like a social network or some kind of software service online. But I will never get over this. Let me pull this up. Polkadot, 150 million. Not toilet paper, lost. Right? Just read this. This is Gavin Wood, the founder or developer, lead developer of Polkadot, right? Which is probably the biggest competitor to Cardano. Earlier this year, Parity Technologies seemingly lost about $150 million worth of Ethereum. That's at the time, 150 million. This is back in 2017, December. They lost 513,000 Ether when a user of its wallet accidentally deleted a code library that made Parity's wallets work. And he's confident it will be restored. It hasn't been restored. What is 513? What is Ether at now? Ethereum price 1,800 or something. Okay, what's 1,800 times 500,000? I can't type. That's a big number. 900 million US dollars, almost $1 billion today, is the value of the Ethereum that is locked up in that thing, in that contract. Because, like, this kind of way of developing software works if you're doing just some random API online for other people to hit. But I would argue you can't develop a financial operating system for the world this way. It doesn't make sense, and it's dangerous and stupid. And so I actually think that the rigor and kind of it's kind of gatekeeping, but the difficulty of learning Haskell is actually one way to prevent, like, idiocy in the space. And this is not being an elitist, but just, by having a strongly typed language, you're just preventing a lot of kind of errors that can occur in something like Python, where you have dynamic typing. You can say it's gatekeeping, but what I'm trying to say by that too is that it's gatekeeping, and I don't mean that as in a bad way, right? Like, we're also just preventing a lot of expensive errors from occurring that can't occur in Haskell, right? Like, you can't try to divide a string in Haskell. Do you guys know what I'm saying? Let me try. How can I do this? In a language like Python, you have different types of different variables. You can have a like, we can say x is equal to cat, and cat is in quotes, and it's the letter CAT. So that means cat. The variable x is a string. Later on, we can say x is equal to 3, which is an integer, a number, right? But in Haskell 1, variables are immutable. They can't change. So once x is equal to cat, it will always be equal to cat within that program. And 2, we declare x is equal to cat means it's a string, and certain functions can only operate on strings or can operate on strings, and they can't operate on other values. So Haskell is nice because of that kind of strongly typed feature where before you try to run a program, you know whether or not it's going to work, because, or have a strong idea whether or not it will work, because if you try to like divide cat by 3 in Python, it will run up until the point where it tries to divide cat by 3, and then it will like shit itself, and it will say like, what do you mean you want to divide cat by 3? I can't divide cat by 3. Cat is a string. But in Haskell, not only can you know that before you try to run it, that you can't divide cat by 3, it will tell you what kind of error it is. Oh, the error is that you have a string and you can't do division there. Yeah. So that's cool. But this is all to go to say, I think I opened it up. One idea that I'm thinking about working on is building a implementation of Cardano in Kotlin or some other language on Android, so that we can set the system up as a service. And I'm imagining like shipping out 3 of these very cheap phones that have high enough specs, like 8 gigs of RAM, or probably more like 10 to 12 gigs of RAM, an 8-core processor. They already have a battery built into them. They already have a backup cellular connection if your data goes down. And what I'm imagining is like we built a very small kind of UX app where you open the application on these 3 phones. You set up one of them as your block producer. You take a picture of the QR code on the other 2 screens or something like that. Or more likely, the relays take pictures of the block producer screen to kind of like identify them. And then through some kind of like dynamic DNS service, you put these phones wherever you want to in the world, you plug them in, and then you have your stake pool set up, right? You guys get what I'm saying? That the Cardano node doesn't actually use that much computation. And so I think it would be pretty cool. And the reason why it's related to what I'm doing, or what I have been doing, is that I'm imagining, one of the barriers to getting more relays and more pools in Africa and South America is the cost and hassle of setting up such a service, such a pool. So I'm imagining that by lowering the barrier to running a pool, we can probably get a lot more pools open in these places, right? But it gets a little bit messy because, Android is not really a server OS. It becomes difficult to remotely administer updates and other kinds of stuff. If I can go physically to that Android device and run the update or whatever and click the screen, it'll probably work. But yeah, or something like a SBC Raspberry Pi probably makes a lot more sense to do it that way. So anyways, if you can see, my wife is calling me, and it's my anniversary tomorrow, and it's Valentine's Day today. So I believe that we are reaching the end of the stream. I appreciate everyone's time, and yeah, thank you everyone for joining me, and thank you to my wife for allowing me to spend 2 hours streaming to internet randos online. And I hope you have a a good night. If you have any ideas for any questions you want to discuss later, please go put them on my Twitter or as a comment down below in a video, and we'll get to them in the future. And for the last time today, if you haven't already, and if you have, thank you, please consider delegating to Monad. I'd really like to hit 400,000 delegation, just because it's a nice round number, and I'm a human and I like nice round numbers. this epoch. I don't think it will happen. I was pretty confident that it would. Um, it'll probably happen Monday because I get paid on Monday, and I will be buying another chunk of ADA. So hopefully, if the price dips tomorrow, don't be too sad, because it will be good for me. And we'll bounce right back. Okay. Cheers, everybody. Yeah. Ashna is it's so awesome. Where else do you get a YouTuber's wife talking in chat? I think Linus Tech Tips, actually. Linus probably has a lot of content with his wife, right? Cheers. I don't know how to say goodbye. So thank you, everybody. Have a good day.